Okay, hey guys, so we're doing a little bit of a review. So what we're going to do is go through the study guide pretty quickly and fill in some of the answers that there are blanks for, and then just kind of briefly talk about each little point in here so that we can remind ourselves of some of the content. So the first thing we're looking over for this exam, we'll be doing chapters 11 and 12, as well as making sure we know those functional groups and the polymers that were additional information. So just nomenclature in general, we've done a lot of nomenclature. There are 3 basic steps overall. The first one is to name the longest carbon chain that contains the highest priority functional group. So you have all these functional groups, something with a aldehyde or a ketone, you have to have that aldehyde or ketone in the longest carbon chain. Then you number the carbon chain starting with the end closest to the higher priority functional group, or if you just have a hydrocarbon, you number the chain to make it so that you have the lowest number of the lowest numbers assigned to the substituents as possible. And then in our last point, the third thing that we need to do is to give the location and the name of each substituent as prefixes, and then indicate cis-trans stereoisomerism if applicable. So the basics of the hydrocarbons, so what the base names are, has to do with the Greek prefixes and then ane at the end, A-N-E. So methane is 1 carbon, and then it goes all the way up. We learned through 10, which is decane. In cycloalkanes, we're adding cyclo to the beginning of each name. So cyclopropane would be a ring with 3 carbons, on and on and on. I went ahead and filled in these answers too. And then when we add a substituent, if it's a carbon-based substituent, we're going to drop the ANE and add YL to it. So methyl instead of methane if it's off of the base carbon chain. And then for halogen substituents, we'll drop INE after, like chlorine. We won't have the INE at the end. We'll add O, so it'll be chloro. And then we didn't actually do hydroxy. This was an old study guide, but we didn't do hydroxy, so you guys don't need to worry about that one. Okay, and then we have unsaturated hydrocarbons. So alkynes first, you're going to drop the ANE from your base chain name and add YNE, so the Y shows it's an alkyne. And then you're going to make sure that you label where that alkyne is on your chain. So 1-butyne would mean that the alkyne is starting at the 1 position. And then a common name that you should know is acetylene, which is the same thing as ethyne. Unsaturated hydrocarbons, so alkenes now. Instead of ANE, now we're going to ENE. Common names to know are ethylene and propylene. However, I think everywhere we see it right now is going to be ethene and propene. And then they could also have cis-trans isomers. So making sure that you name the cis-trans isomers if necessary is important. Polymers for nomenclature is going to be the prefix poly in front of the monomer name or the common name for that monomer. So you guys can have all of those in your notes as well. And then aromatics, the base name is going to be benzene unless it has some other kind of base. So if it doesn't have those specific functional groups that make an aniline, phenol, toluene, stuff like that, then it's going to be benzene based. And then you start at so if you have a toluene molecule that has other substituents on it, you'll start putting your number 1 at where that methyl group is for the toluene, and then go around the ring to make your substituents the lowest number that they can be. Let's go ahead and keep going, the nomenclature. So molecules with heteroatom containing functional groups, such as alcohol styles, ethers, aldehydes, and ketones. So we learned how to name these in chapter 12. So alcohols at the end of the name, the base name, we're going to drop the E at the end and add OL. And then you need to make sure you put the number as to where the alcohol is. And then there's also the phenols, which we just talked about in the aromatic groups. Then we have thiols, which is the base name minus the thiol, and then you put the number and then thiol at the end. So the number corresponding to where that thiol is. Ethers we use the common name for. So we're going to use, you have oxygen in the middle with two different groups attached. And so you just name the two groups that are attached in alphabetical order and then put ether at the end. Aldehydes, you're going to drop the E off of the base name and add AL. For aldehydes, you do not have to put the number, the carbon number that the aldehyde is at, because it by definition has to be at carbon 1. And some common names to know are formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, propionaldehyde, and butyraldehyde, and benzaldehyde. Excuse me, I just sneezed. And the last one is ketones. So at the end, it's an O-N-E, own at the end instead of the E. And a common name to know is acetone. So remember, with ketones, you definitely have to say where the ketone is on your carbon chain, because by definition, it has to be in the middle somewhere. So make sure you number those. Okay, so there's lots of practice here for nomenclature. So take a moment and try it on your own. And in the next video, I'll have the answers for you on there. Yeah, see you there.